as well and get a whole bunch of chilling nade boost. But the other restricted in Palkia, very common in Pokemon, you actually have a Pokemon that can beat itself, and since Palkia is a dragon type, it is actually weak and super effective to each other. So if they're trained the same way or maybe in the same speed tier and under Trick Room, it could be really scary if your game plan is, I hope my Palkia, attacks before my opponent's Palkia does.
Well, both Palkias out on the field to start things off. Justin opting to go with that Gothitelle instead of that Infamous Shadow Tag, or Alcremie, that typical setup Pokemon on Alex's side of the field.
And now Alex is unable to switch his two Pokemon out because Justin led with Gothitelle, making me wonder if Alex did not bring Gothitelle in turn one, or in game one, excuse me. There is a chance you keep it in the back and you want to try to bait a specific lead onto the field and then you force them to stay in with the Gothitelle. But Justin being a lot more aggressive by leading Gothitelle, punishing Alex for whatever lead decision he brought in game one, which turned out Palkia Alcremie, is going to be forced to stay in. You also have access to Fake Out on Gothitelle, which is it's a really strong attack for Gothitelle because it doesn't need to do damage, it needs to support your team. So if you Fake Out one of Alex's two Pokemon, as long as it didn't Dynamax, you're really going to put them behind the 8-ball.
Well, speaking of Dynamax, right out of the gate, Justin is going to opt for that Dynamax Palkia, looking to apply this pressure right from the start, but not going to be the only one. I mean, this Alcremie next to this Palkia, that setup combination, definitely a way that this team wants to be going, and wanting to just make sure this pressure is maxed is going to make sure the chances are maximized going into this.
Yeah, two gigantic Palkia facing off each other without any special attack boost. Well, Helping Hand actually changes things, because if it was at neutral, you probably don't get a Max Wormwind one-hit KO. Now Alex might have to be a little bit worried as what happens. That Protect doesn't matter because he's not going to target Alcremie at all.
Not at all in this Max Wormwind. We were talking about the super effective hits as well with the Helping Hand. It is going to be doing a lot of damage as well. Actually, it's not going to matter going into this. But just the fact that this Alcremie went for that Protect instead, that has to hurt, because that could have been something to help set up going into this. And as a result, Alex's Max Wormwind going to do a lot less damage.
Yeah, that's a sizable difference. In this point, it might not matter because it's a two-hit KO regardless, but going into, the rest of the game, if there was ever a scenario where you do survive through the 3 Dynamax turns, once your health goes back to the 100% instead of being doubled, that's actually a pretty significant difference in HP, letting you handle some different chip things. So if you see that, on that turn with the Helping Hand and Justin's Palkia attacking first, if you're Alex, do you maybe max guard to try to bait it out, or do you win the speed tie?
Winning the speed tie might just be enough. We were talking about how, maybe the damage will matter, maybe it won't, but when your opponent's Palkia is going to be outspeeding you the next turn around, well, that damage was for nothing. Justin's Palkia is going to be going down, doesn't even get that second turn of max to try and counteract. Alcremie to follow up, not a passive turn this time around, instead just a little bit of this passive damage. But Gothitelle gonna opt to set up this Trick Room, going for something that maybe could give an indication of what's about to swap in.
And that's a great turn out of Justin, because he essentially played to multiple outs on the turn. One, I win the speed tie, I knock out his Palkia, I have Trick Room set up and I start sleeping. Or two, he knocks out my Palkia, but I get a free switch in to Calyrex, who can do a lot of damage. Obviously, this Palkia is definitely in range of being knocked out from the Glacial Lance, and that will start getting those attack boosts for Calyrex. So a very safe play from Justin, because he was able to potentially win on multiple fronts on that turn.
Yeah, this time around too, the Alcremie is going to be here and is going to be swapping in place of that Gothitelle, as Alex opting to just go for another Protect on his own Alcremie here. The Glacial Lance, of course, is not going to do anything into this slot, but looking at this Palkia already with how much damage it has taken, it's not going to be able to stand up to this at all. And that's going to be Dynamax gone for both players.
Yeah, and that's now 3 turns that Alcremie's been on the field for Alex, and as Calyrex gets the attack boost. The Alcremie has Protect, Dazzling Gleam, Protect. So it really hasn't been able to use any Decorates or anything else that he wants to help supporting the rest of the team. Alex does now have to reveal his 3rd Pokemon, so you would assume Calyrex Ice Rider is one of the 2 in the back. The question is, do you have Gothitelle, do you have Rillaboom, or even say Incineroar, who has Intimidate, which also as a fire type be pretty good against Calyrex. For now, though, he is just going to match the Calyrex in this spot, and you're presumably going to have the exact same scary scenario of the two Palkias facing off against each other, but just this time now it's Calyrex.
Yeah, it's just the two different restricted going head-to-head here, and we saw last time it was how they were trained. Both of the Palkias did have that speed tie, and now you have to imagine that maybe this is the same sort of scenario, and there's the access to having that set up with the Alchremies on the field, that typical way to be able to enable that Calyrex to do even more damage, though Justin's does already have an attack boost, which is kind of nice.
Right, that's definitely giving him the advantage here, is if you're neutrally hitting the other team's Calyrex, you, obviously the Glacial Lance is really strong, but at +1, you can actually do just a little bit more damage, but this Decorate can even out the odds, or actually give Alex the advantage if Justin doesn't match it.
Yeah, we'll have to see, but sure enough, this team operates for a reason, right? It's going to be Decorates on both sides. Alex with the +2, Justin with that +3 at this point. Justin also going to be attacking first into this, and this Glacial Lance, it is going to hurt a +3 attack Calyrex. The Alcremie, absolutely no chance whatsoever, and a not very effective hit on the Calyrex, still taking half the damage and getting yet another attack boost.
Yeah, that cream got whipped on that turn.
Oh man, I cannot. Glacial Lance in response though will take out the opposing Alcremie, so this will at least get some damage back and another attack boost. It's basically just a game of set up and then just hit the other person as hard as you can and hope that things are going your way with how these Pokemon are trained. As Gothitelle now is going to be rejoining the field here for Alex, going up against, you name it, another Gothitelle.
So Alex actually did bring Gothitelle as his 4th Pokemon waiting in the back. You think if you don't lead it, maybe you don't have it, but Alex deciding a late game Gothitelle is a better position for him. Both trainers have access to Fake Out right now on this turn, and we can just keep talking about speed ties throughout the entire set, because if the Gothitelles are trained the same way and they both click Fake Out to stop the other Calyrex, that could be problematic. The other thing to note, with Justin at +3 attack, his Glacial Lance did just over half to Alex's, but Alex at +2 did not do half to the Calyrex there. So that might be a relevant calculation later on to know that if you're +2, you're not going to get the 2-hit KO, but at +3 you potentially can.
Well, now the fact that Justin believes at a +4, because everything has stacked up, so it surely will do a lot better this time around. The Protect coming out from Alex, though, but the Fade Out into the other slot. That is going to be huge, as the Glacial Lance, of course, is going to be able to hit into the opposing Gothitelle, not able to do much whatsoever, and that is going to be a clean KO.
And it's not even like Alex made a bad play there. You have to weigh your options. You have to think, is the Gothitelle more likely to Fake Out and then Glacial Lance on Calyrex into my Calyrex because it's the only offensive pressure that I have on the field? Or is he going to target down the Gothitelle on my side to stop me from faking out? It's really one of those 50-50 plays that are so difficult to make, not only, you know, on the fly mid-match, but you only have the 45 seconds each turn, right? So you have to make that decision quickly and decisively and hope it pays off. And it doesn't for, you know, for that turn, but this Glacial Lance is first.
It is gonna go first, and it's gonna be just the Calyrex holding on. We were talking just how impactful these attack boosts were, and the fact that it was only at a +2 the first time it got to attack. Sure, it's been stacking things up. It has a hefty attack boost now, but not enough to clean it up. And of course, with a Glacial Lance in response and already just at half health, this is going to be able to pick up this KO in this mirror to start things out. And
we are going to get that game 3, so Justin is not deterred from the game 1 loss at the beginning of the set. Now everything's even. All Pokemon are available. We're tied 1-1 at that point. So that is important that we saw +2 Glacial Lance does not KO, but is not a 2-hit KO as long as it's a spread attack, but a +3 Glacial Lance is a 2-hit KO onto the opposing Calyrex. That's definitely something that Alex has noted, understands that maybe it's more important to try to set up a Decorate earlier on so you can start steamrolling those Glacial Lance boosts, because as we saw Justin's Calyrex really, you know, sweep the whole field there with those Glacial Lances just continually getting boosts.
Yeah, because just that one boost, being able to make sure that when you win the speed tie, or even if you don't, just having that survival so you can retaliate and return is so important. But Feel like as well, how do you want to be approaching this next match? Both players are on match point. They're bringing the same 4 Pokemon. There was that read at the end with the fake out, the protect, to make sure that Justin could clean things up. But a lot of the game just kind of seemed like those little tiny decisions paired with how Pokemon were traded in speed ties and just if you were going first or not.
Yeah, I would be pretty dizzy in this game for game 3 if it was me, just, being completely honest. Understanding both the Palkias have the exact same speed, the Calyrexes as well have the same speed. You'd presume because they're friends and, they probably built together, maybe everything is consistently that way. So there's really not any turn you can confirm that you're going to be moving faster, of course, unless you have differing Pokemon. Say Justin brings Rillaboom and then Alex brings Incineroar in a certain matchup. If you continue to bring the same 4 Pokemon to this set, every turn you're going to be, sweating, crossing your fingers that you're going to come out on top. And that's just such a dangerous position to rely on. 50% of the time you move on to top 4, but 50% of the time you go home.
I mean, we say the 50-50 too, but there was also the little decisions. I mean, specifically talking about the fact that Alcremie did protect on that first turn instead of setting up and how impactful that was down the line with the fact that the KO was missed because of not having that attack boost, and something that we might see adjusted, as the leads aren't going to be adjusted whatsoever, but you have to imagine the line of play from Alex specifically will.
So that's a good point to bring up, that Alcremie protected turn 1, game 1 instead of decorating, or game 2 technically, instead of going for the decorate. So that meant that that Alex was concerned that Gothitelle would fake out Alcremie and then Dynamax Palkia would hit it with a Max Geyser. And that's what we saw at the end of the game, where we double targeted into that Gothitelle slot. So this time around, Alex has to be worried that if it worked so effectively for Justin in the previous game to, fake out and then target that other slot, the Alcremie's in a really tough spot. However, if it plays out like the previous game where just the Palkias trade damage to each other while they're Dynamax, the Alcremie is free to decorate on this turn and boost up its teammates. So this is a really difficult decision for Alex to decide what is Alcremie's job this turn.
Well, also to note that the helping hand that the Gothitelle went for on that first turn, as opposed to the fake out, wasn't enough of a boost to make sure that the Palkia could get that Max Wormwind to be a one-hit KO. So knowing that going into this and the fact that things just are traded all around, that could also really make a huge difference on how this is approached. Because that +1, not going to net you the KO. So you could just go for the fake out because a +2 from a Palkia from a Decorate surely will get this one-hit KO on Justin's Palkia. As both trainers, not to anyone's surprise, are going to go ahead and yet again Dynamax both of these Palkias on the first turn. But this is going to be the crucial moment here, and actually a different way to be playing this out. It's going to be a Max Guard as this Gothitelle goes for the fake out into the Alcremie. This Max Wormwind going to do absolutely nothing.
That could have been disastrous if Palkia on Justin's end targeted down the Alcremie, because you would have had the fake out and Max Geyser into the slot. But obviously seeing Max Wormwind, he's targeting the Dragon type in the Palkia. So Alex, a very safe decision to Max Guard on this turn. You burn the fake out potential that Gothitelle had. The helping hand and Max Wormwind does not KO you, so you are safe to, potentially go for the Decorate now.
Yeah, and that's instead, just going to be this Max Wormwind in. So it is a helping hand coming out from Justin onto the Palkia. And sure, we've seen how this played out, the amount of damage the Max Wormwind did in the previous game. It will be Alex that gets to go first with that. Instead, it will be a Max Geyser
into the Alcremie. You're definitely not targeting the 4 times resist water
definitely
Pokemon.
Not. And just the amount of damage with that helping hand, it is going to be able to clean that up. The critical hit on top of it. That Alcremie had no chance.
We'll actually never know what Alcremie clicked that turn. It is slower than the Palkia, so we weren't able, you had to attack first. It is kind of a difficult situation because Palkia's first attack was not going to have a boost, so you'd have to wait till the next turn for the Decorate to help it out there. So the double target into the Alcremie now ensures that Justin will have the potential Decorate advantage if Alcremie Calyrex is in the back for him, just like it was in the previous game. Now that Alex has brought Calyrex onto the field, there still is one more turn of Dynamax for both of these trainers. So does Justin wants to just get as much damage off as he can into the Calyrex, who is not Dynamax, so he doesn't have that extra, additional damage there. Maybe you have a strong Max Whirlwind, not only lowering the attack, but also doing a sizable amount of damage. Or do you want to start chipping away at this Palkia, who once Dynamax ends, if it's still full health, can really be a menace?
I mean, even a Max Wormwood into the Palkia will decrease the attack on the Calyrex, which is also a little bit of a best world scenario. You get that health. You also make sure you kind of cover for the fact that Calyrex is going to be going for the Protect on this turn. The Hypnosis from the Gothitelle, it is going to miss. That is the risk of using these types of attacks, but cheeky play coming out. And Alex, with that outspeed, is going to be able to grab this KO over onto Justin's Palkia. That Hypnosis, had it landed, could have been disastrous.
This is so scary every single turn because you can never be confident that your Pokemon will be moving first.
Yeah.
As we saw before, Justin's attack went first, and now this time Alex's Dynamax attack knocks out the opposing Palkia there. So now we have two Calyrex on the field. The Gothitelle, if presuming Alcremie's the last Pokemon in the back, this Gothitelle can't fake out. You don't really do damage with the support of Gothitelle. Your best chance really is 60% of the time. It works every time when you use Hypnosis.
I mean, it is increasing your chances. You either get to go first and you're fine, or you land the Hypnosis and you're going second and you're also just fine. Going again for the Hypnosis game, and yet again going to be a miss, but it's not the only one. The Hydro Pump not going to land. These trainers cannot land their moves whatsoever. Glacial Lance, at least it is going to be a bit happier at this point, managing to get a sizable chunk of damage onto the Palkia, and the Glacial Lance now in response to pick up its own hunk of damage. Very healthy amount on this Gothitelle.
And the Glacial Lance, even at neutral attack for Justin, is a 2-hit KO into Palkia. Palkia being Water and Dragon, that Ice is a neutral attack into it. So knowing that if there's no way for Alex to lower Justin's attack stat on the Calyrex, that there is definitely has to worry that if the Calyrex outspeeds on Justin's end, you're knocking out your own Palkia. We've seen a lot of misses in the last couple turns, 2 Hypnosis misses, and the Hydro Pump in the rain, which would have been a pretty considerable amount of damage into either the Calyrex or straight up knocking out the Gothitelle here. So now Alex has to wait for one more Hypnosis.
Third time is not the charm. It is going to miss, but the Hydro Pump is going to land instead, and now we get to find out just how much damage it's going to do in the rain, but not enough is the answer. But Calyrex on Alex's side is going to move first, and it is going to finish off what Palkia could not clean up the KO on both of these Pokemon.
So Justin enduring the hit doesn't end up mattering because he's able to get knocked out from the double target on Glacial Lance anyway. Would have been a huge deal if he hung on at 4 and then retaliated with the Glacial Lance and knocked out the Palkia there. There's the one more turn of rain. Justin's down to his last Pokemon, and it's that cute little adorable Alcremie, and it's just not going to be able to do enough to take down 2 restricteds and a Pokemon in the back.
Always end with dessert as Alex here. Surely this will be a win to be able to move on into top 4. Sure enough, the forfeit is going to secure that. Fantastically played though, and for Amir and stuff that was very